about Tanween followed by Hamzatul Wasl. Objectives: to understand how Tanween is recited when followed by a word beginning with Hamzatul Wasl. To see how this is written in the Uthmani and the Majidi scripts. Whenever a sakin letter is followed by a sakin letter in grammar, special rules are applied, sometimes known as clustering. In Tajweed, we will have a problem reciting when Tanween is followed by Hamzatul Wasl for this same reason. So let me just explain this with a small example. Here we have from the Quran two words. So we have nu, hun, and the next letter, the next word starts with Hamzatul Wasl, and then we have a ba with sukun, so it's sakin, which would normally be ibnahu, so it's from the word ibn. And the problem we have here is if we break this down, the hun is actually the ha with dhamma, noon and sakin. So underneath what we've just seen, that round circle for us is the computer verb sakin. Okay, so we have hun. And then we know that the Hamzatul Wasl itself has no sound at all, except if we know certain rules like the definite article, etc. But in this case, this is not a definite article. In this case, the Hamzatul Wasl has no sound at all. The word depends on having a sound before it. So essentially, we start with the ba, which is also sakin. Again, we show this with the round circle in the computer font. So we end up with the hun from the first word, which ends in sakin, and the ba in the second word, which effectively that word is starting with the sakin. So now we have a problem because there's no way to join a sound to the ba, which is sakin, because the letter before it in the previous word is also sakin. So we need to resolve this, okay? Because if we read this, we say nu, hun, and then we don't know how to start on the second word because there's no way to read that. With the Hamzatul Wasl, if you've covered the lesson on Hamzatul Wasl, you can normally work out what sound to start with on a Hamzatul Wasl, or to implement instead of the Hamzatul Wasl with a definite article or with an imperative verb. But in this case we cannot, because there are certain words in Arabic or certain nouns which begin with Hamzatul Wasl, but you cannot give it an initial sound. So this is nu, hun, and then we don't know how to connect it with the ba, which is sakin. So that's the problem, and now we'll look at a resolution to it. One of the ways in grammar to resolve this problem is to introduce a kasra on the first sakin letter. So what we mean by that, same example again. Effectively, if we were to write the hun, i.e. the dhamma tanween, as hun, we would substitute the sakin or sukun on the noon for a kasra. Okay, we would leave the ba as sakin. So essentially we now have hu nib. So we can join. And you'll see this in many cases in grammar where you have a sakin letter followed by a sakin letter. They will put a kasra on the first sakin letter so you can do the join. So essentially we would read this as nu, hu, nibanahu. Yeah, so it's going to be hunib. So again, that is the dhammatain, or the tanween dhamma. Changed, instead of hun, we now say huni. Huni. That joins to the ba, because remember we totally ignore the hamzatul wasl. So it becomes hunib. Hunib. So now we're examining the Uthmani and the Majidi script. When reading the Uthmani script, you are expected to know how to recite this. In the Majidi script, they resolve this for you. So remember, the Majidi script has effectively or evolved from the Uthmani script to help effectively non-Arabs who have no idea about grammar. However, by just knowing these few tajweed rules, you can resolve this for yourself. So the first example that we see is the Uthmani script, which we've had a look at twice before. So again, we have to know, because the dhammatain they write as a dhammatain, you have to know dhammatain followed by this hamzatul wasl. Simply change the hun into huni, huni, i.e. change the sukun on the noon to a kasra and leave the ba as sakin. So we read it as nu huniba nahu. Again, you have to know that. Now in the Majidi script that we can see here, this is exactly the same words, but you can see they've actually changed the dhammatain on top of the ha to a single dhamma. So it's just hu. And under the hamzatul wasl, now remember in the Majidi script, they generally don't draw the wasla sign. They drop that, so it looks like an alif, but it's not an alif. It's a hamzatul wasl still. And then they put the small noon under it with a kasra. So they've done it for us. So that's very easy to read. You just say nuhu nibanahu. Okay. And again, the way the two-length hu is written at the end, we've covered that in the long vowel lesson. In the Majidi script, then, they've resolved everything for us. But if you were learning grammar, that dhamma in the Majidi script on the ha is not grammatically correct, because the nu hun has got dhammatain, and in grammar, dhammatains are normally used to indicate an indefinite noun, and a single dhamma would, or a dhammatain would be changed to a single dhamma when you're changing it into the definite noun. So grammatically the Majidi script doesn't look quite right, but it reads fine for tajweed. So this is another reason, if you are going to advance from tajweed into grammar, learn tajweed on the Uthmani script, because at least grammatically it looks correct. Okay, you may need to know these extra rules, but grammatically you'll be better off to learn the Uthmani script. Okay, and a small note here, if you want to see this in the Quran, look at Surah 11 verse 42. And advice here would be to keep 2 copies of the Quran, one in Majidi script and one in Uthmani, and go through and compare. It's quite a good exercise. So in conclusion, we now understand how Tanween is recited when followed by a word beginning with Hamzatul Wasl. We also know how this is written in the Uthmani and the Majidi scripts.